Hello everyone, and welcome to Sweet Stitches Quilt Shop. Today is First Friday Demonstration Day. Won't you join me over at the cutting table? Today's demo day theme is Totally Tubular, and I thought that I would show you some projects that are made with the strip tube ruler. Strip tube ruler comes in two different sizes. One is a 9-inch and one is a 6-inch. And this is a really great ruler. It's not one of those one and done rulers. As you can see by the little dots that I have on the back side here, I use this ruler a lot. I've made lots of quilts out of it, and I have a bunch to show you today. And so first I wanted to show you how to use the ruler in case maybe you're not aware of it. It has been out for a while, and there are tons of patterns and books that go along with this ruler. So you can really get your money's worth out of this ruler. So the strip tube ruler uses 2.5-inch strips. And so we cut a bunch of these up for each of the different projects, and I'll tell you how we went about doing that. But it all starts with 2.5-inch strips. And what you do is you create strip sets. And so this is a strip set. This one right here is a strip set that is made up of 2 strips that are sewn together the length of the fabric, and then another 2 strips that are sewn together length of the fabric, and then you sew those 2 strips together down both the other sides, and then that creates a tube. And you can see that kind of here. We have 2 shades of green and orange and a red in this tube. And so from this tube you actually will press it all up and lay your ruler on the tube, and you're going to make your cut, and there's going to always be like a scrap piece at the end of it, but a lot of times you can make things out of the scraps that are at the end too, so don't throw those away. But you'll take the strip and you'll lay the ruler on there, and you'll make your cut depending on the pattern that you're following. A lot of the patterns that I used today had 8-inch cuts. So I put it on the 8-inch line and I made my cut, and they create a triangle like this. And so you have your strip set on this side and your strip set on this side. And what you do is there might be a couple of stitches up here in this corner, and you just pop it open, and what it does is it creates a stripe effect like this. So a lot of times they're diagonal. It depends all on how you lay the ruler on, following the directions for the different patterns. And so once you have these squares, there's tons of different ideas out there for how to put them together to create lots of different quilt blocks. Depending on the strips that you have, when you put them together, they can create diagonals, they can create circular patterns, they can create pinwheel patterns. And you don't always use the same size strips when you're, so they're not all 2.5-inch strips. Sometimes you might take 2 2.5-inch strips like this and sew those together. But then you take a larger full-size strip that equals the same amount as your 2 strips when they're sewn together, and you cut them exactly the same way with the ruler. And when you pop it open, you get more of a half-square triangle kind of effect. And you can create half-square triangles too. So if you had 2 big strips and you sewed them together, you can also create half-square triangles this way too. So it's kind of a easy way, and there's lots of possibilities for this ruler. So one of the first quilts that I made with this, I made a couple years ago, and it's actually hanging here behind me. This is the spin cycle quilt. Here's the pattern. And like I said, the strip tube ruler was designed by Cozy Quilt Designs. They create patterns for all of the rulers that they have, and they create a lot of patterns for 2.5-inch strips too. So as you can see, it creates kind of a pinwheel design. So half of it was a strip set, in each block here, and the other half was that kind of half square triangle set. And when you combine them together, it makes for a lot of movement in the quilt and a great way to use up lots of different fabrics in a quilt too. A lot of these make really good scrappy quilts. And so this is Spin Cycle, and this is actually on the calendar for March. It's going to be March 18th, and it's an afternoon class. It's from 2 to 4, and that's Spin Cycle. So my next project that I made is a pattern called Dreamweaver, and this is a great one, again using the strip tube ruler. And this one I actually dived into our scrap drawers that we have on the cutting tables here. I went in and I threw together all the colors that I thought looked great together on the table. I eliminated the ones that maybe stood out a little bit too much, but you want lights and mediums and darks. And then you also want to have a background color. So in this one, the background color is white. And this is a great pattern because it creates kind of a weaving effect with the blocks. And let me show that to you. And so this is the quilt. It has lots of aquas and teals, blues, navies, grays, greens, just everything out of the scrap drawer. It has 2 borders on it, actually 3 borders, because there is a white border that goes along with the kind of basket weaving background color that's in here. In the instructions, there's a way to use your scraps that you have left over to create the second border, but I kind of ran out of time getting these put together in time for the video here. I decided just to go with a blue border. But this is called Dreamweaver, and it is also on the class calendar too. It is going to be the 8th and the 15th of this month, March 8th and 15th. And it's a 2-part class because we're going to create the blocks in the first class and then put it all together in the second class. This is one that you might want to check out if you want to give it a try. We have a pretty quilt here made out of the scrap drawer. So when I made the Dreamweaver quilt, there's always scrap that's left at the end of it. And like I said, they said that you could cut these apart and make these, sew them together and make them into a second border. But you can also open them up, and you're going to get blocks that maybe go in a different direction, but you can just lay your strip tube ruler right on there and cut out another strip right out of or another block right out of there that you can make another scrap quilt out of too. Maybe a small baby blanket or something, or a table runner. So there's going to be some scraps, and I have some here. I just haven't made anything with them yet, but I think I'm going to save them and see what I can get out of them. So save your scraps because you never know when you're going to need them. So when I was making up the Dreamweaver pattern, I was cutting out my 2.5-inch strips. How I went about it is I used my favorite rotary cutter and my favorite ruler, which is the Quilter Select ruler that has anti-slip over the whole back side. It made for straighter cuts with no, slipping up at the top. My favorite rotary cutter, of course, is the pressure-sensitive one, which will retract and go back in for safety reasons. That's how I went about cutting my strips, but I had Linda and Claire help me cut strips too, and they both went about it in different ways, different from mine. I chose the old school method, and they chose different methods, and I'll tell you what those are. So for the next pattern that we put together, I had Claire cut out my strips for me. And what I did is I chose a pattern out of the strip tubing pattern book. And this one has lots and lots of ideas for the same blocks that you're cutting out and just putting them in different positions. I chose to do a Roman stripe. And so a Roman stripe is half background and half strips. And there are 9 different patterns, layouts here on the page that you can choose from, and I chose the one that's right in the middle here. It's kind of a rickrack kind of pattern to it, and Claire helped me cut all the strips for it. And like before I said, I used a ruler and a rotary cutter. Claire chose to use AccuQuilt, and she used the 2.5-inch strip cutter, which made cutting them out super easy and fast. And she had all these cut for me in no time, so I could get right to the sewing part of it. And so that's an option for cutting your 2.5-inch strips too, so don't forget AccuQuilt. Let me show you the quilt. Like I said, this one's more of a rickrack. It doesn't really have a title to it. I just chose like a different layout in the book. But the book is called Strip Tubing, and they'll have all kinds of ideas in there. But I'm going to call this one Rickrack. It's a very pretty one. It has this kind of great wave pattern to it, and I love the colors that we chose. Lots of greens and teals and blues. Very oceany, I think. This is another pattern that you can make with the strip tube ruler. It's a lot of fun, and this one was super easy to put together. Of course, there are the ends when you're cutting with the strip tube, and so I have a bunch of these different ends that I will pop apart. It's real easy and now you can see I have it going kind of in a different direction, but if I lay my ruler on here, I can cut a whole bunch of these and make a little baby quilt out of them, or maybe a table topper to go along with the quilt. So my next quilt is called Transitions, and this is one that Linda cut out for me, and she chose another route. You know, I did the ruler and the rotary cutter, Claire did AccuQuilt strip cutter, and then Linda chose to use the Stripology ruler. And so the Stripology ruler is made by Creative Grids, and it is a slotted ruler, so your rotary cutter fits in the slots, and you can just measure off very simply 2.5-inch strips and cut them quickly. And so she had the most to cut, but she got it done in no time too. So there's lots of different methods for cutting the 2.5-inch squares and 2.5-inch strips. So you don't have to limit yourself. Find which one works best for you. So the quilt that we made is Transitions, and I decided to use this beautiful line by Northcott. It is called Daydreaming, and it has these beautiful kind of watercolor effects to them, and they're kind of like a streaky kind of painting method on here, and it comes in these 4 beautiful colors. There's magenta and orange, there's yellow and orange, there's blue and green, and then there's blue in this pink color too. And I thought the streakiness in the fabric would look great in this quilt, because this quilt has kind of a streaky kind of effect to it. On the cover of the pattern, it was done in batik fabrics, and that's also very pretty, but this one's pretty vibrant, as you can tell by the fabrics. I mean, look at this yellow. That's super bright. So I'm going to show you the quilt, and then show you how I went about making the blocks. So this is a big one. We're going to try and get another shot of it for you here tonight so you can see the whole thing. But if I put it up here like this, hopefully you can see a little bit of it. You can see that the darks, or the cooler colors, are more towards the outer edges, and it gets warmer as you get towards the middle. It has a great effect to it, and it really glows. You kind of need your sunglasses. But it was really easy to make, even though it was on point. You know, it's not hard. You just sew your rows diagonally instead of sewing them in straight sets. And you don't have to worry about matching up the stripes because they all just kind of blend together. So for those of you that obsess about you know, your strips matching up perfectly, these aren't the quilts for those. So These are more about blending colors and just really enjoying using the ruler because it's a lot of fun to use. And so this quilt is called Transitions, and we have the pattern, and of course we have the rulers here. So if you want to give these a try, you can. This one I just finished up today. So I was just putting the borders on today so I could get it done for the video tonight. So I'm glad it got finished so I could share it with you. So when you make this quilt, like I said, you're making sets that are warm colors and you're making sets that are cool colors. And you're basically sewing them together in rows, diagonal rows, to create the pattern. And it makes a lot of different sizes. So this is, the one I showed you is the twin size. But they have, I believe, they have a king size on this one too. So you can make it throw, twin, or king. It's a really pretty quilt. We're really happy with how it turned out. I'm kind of been thinking about ideas about how I'm going to quilt this one because I thought I could do quilt, maybe free motion quilt, a giant sunflower in the middle of the orange color on there, or maybe I'll do something kind of streaky and wavy going down through all the different strips. I don't know yet, but we'll see. That's in the future. And of course there's scraps again left over from the ends of your strip tubes. And so again, these can be used to create lots of different little projects, maybe even some pillows. So the next quilt I have to show you has been hanging here in the new shop since we opened. Judy Holden quilted it up for me and we just love it. It is called the Lace Star, and this was a block of the month that we did, I'm going to say about a year and a half ago, and it is made with the strip tube ruler. That's when I first found out about the ruler and tried it out. But this is a great quilt. We did it in batik fabrics and in some grunge. And grunge and batiks, they just blend together beautifully. And we were really happy with the results of this. I used colors that are opposite of each other on the color wheel. So we used blues and golds. And it really made for a really pretty star quilt. It's called Lace Star, and we have booklets here in the shop if you think you'd want to make one up. And I'm thinking that if I get enough people that are interested, I might do it as a block of the month again, because we have new people that have never seen the quilt and we've had a lot of interest in it lately. So let me know if you're interested in something like that, and we can always put that together. But this is Lace Star, and it is by Cozy Quilt Designs, and it uses a strip tube ruler. So finishing up for today, I'm going to share a couple of items that we have here in the shop that we're going to be having classes on here soon. And one of the things that we are doing as far as changing up on the class calendar is a couple of the classes that we've added in. And one of them is going to be Project of the Month for AccuQuilt. And the Project of the Month for AccuQuilt, of course Darla is going to run that for us. And it's a class where you come in and you use our AccuQuilt cutting system and our dies, and you cut out a project. They're usually smaller projects, maybe table runners, different things like that, wall hangings. Smaller size projects that you can maybe get done that day or finish up that night at home. What it is, it's so that you can, if you've never tried AccuQuilt, maybe you can come in and try it and see how easy it is to use, and all the great designs that you can make with it. And you can make a little project and enjoy class time with other quilters. So that's going to take place every month, usually the Thursday before AccuQuilt Go Play Day. That would be maybe the first or second Thursday of the month. You'd have to look at the calendar to see. And also, we're also changing up the collage quilt class. So I've decided to make this into a group so that it's an ongoing project that you can work on. And you can come and go as you please, but it's always going to be on the last or fourth Friday of the month. That's also improv day. We do improv quilting in the morning, and we do collage quilting in the afternoon. And we have a lot of fun. We get out the scrap bins and we just have fun creating. It's one of my favorite days of the month. And so those are the two things that we've changed up. We've also put other classes on the calendar. Lately, the big bag class has been very popular. I've added that onto the calendar for March too, so you can check that one out. The project of the month for AccuQuilt is going to be St. Patrick's Day related, because we've gotten in a new die from AccuQuilt. It is the Shamrock die. And we're also going to use the cute little gnome die in the class down here at the bottom, and we're turning him into a leprechaun. So it's a cute little wall hanging, door hanger, whatever you want to use it for. Darla's put this one together for us, and she's going to show you how to do machine applique too while you're in the class. So she's got tips for that. And so this will be taking place on March 10th. From 10:30 to 12:30. So if you want to give AccuQuilt a try, or even if you do have AccuQuilt and you want to come in and use our dies and cutters and take the class with her, you're welcome to do that. You just have to sign up for the class. And so she's even got April scheduled for us now too. It's not on the calendar yet. I still have to do that, but she's got the project all done. And the project of the month for April AccuQuilt is going to be these pretty placemats with tulips on them. They're going to be perfect for your springtime table. She's going to use the tulip die. I think she's going to be cutting out some leaves maybe by freehand. Well, I'm not quite sure. But she's made up, you're going to be able to make up 4 of them. And she has, you know, the measurements and everything that you'll need for, as far as the fabrics go, what you'll need for the class. You just have to come in and talk to Darla about that. So this one will be going on the calendar, but if you want to sign up for the Shamrock one, you're more than welcome to do that. We still have spots for that. And the last thing that I want to share today is a little baby quilt that I made up. It's using the Tenderwood panel, and I recently finished putting it together and quilting it up. It's a cute little woodland themed panel, and what I did was I took the panel and I cut out the different animal squares at 9.5 inches, and then I used 2.5-inch strips that go around each one of the blocks. But I've chopped up the 2.5-inch strips. I didn't use solid ones, so that I have more variety of the different fabrics that go along with this line, because each one of them's super cute. But it has really great sayings on it. It says, "You are cherished, you are loved." It's, you know, be brave, be wise, all those positive sayings for baby. And I put the little mushroom fabric on the back, and I did some free motion on the front of it with leaves, because it goes along with the whole nature theme. So 2.5-inch strips, you can do a lot of things with them. Today we strip tubed with them, but there's lots of different ways to cut those 2.5-inch strips, whether it's ruler and rotary cutter, or if it's AccuQuilt 2.5-inch strip cutter, or if it's the Stripology ruler. However you cut your 2.5-inch strips, you have lots of design possibilities out there. And I hope you give the strip tube ruler a try, and I hope that everyone out there has a great day today, and we'll see you next month. Have a great day.